Tim Prister with Tim O'Malley following Notre Dame's media day. We had an open practice, the fourth and final open practice to the media, interviews with all the assistant coaches, and then a handful of the players. And Tim, from the practice session, another couple picks by Brandon Wimbush. I talked to Chip Long about it, and he, obviously it isn't something that they want to see, but he says, his ability to bounce back from that is great. It never would have happened last year. That's consolation, I guess, for another couple picks. But what did you see offensively in addition to that?
Yeah, he threw, I think it's notable to mention that he threw two picks. One was a great play by Alohi Gilman. One was a terrible throw where he didn't see the rover. And then he had an interception drop that was also a bad throw. And that's only relevant because Ian Book and Phil Dracovic didn't throw picks. Brandon Wimbush had plenty of good passes today. At one point in the red zone, 7-on-7, 3 for 3 for 3 touchdowns. So there was a couple nice catches involved there, but there was good ball placement by him. Maybe we didn't see it the last time we were out here, any throws like that. He had a competitive practice where I think there were two rookie mistakes by a senior, is the way to kind of define Wimbush's practice, which, it is less than ideal, but we have to keep talking about how this is the worst place for Brandon Wimbush to try to impress us because he's not allowed to run. And if Brandon Wimbush wasn't allowed to run, we wouldn't be having these conversations anyway.
Yeah, well, that was a key point. It's something I discussed with Chip Long. I mean, just the ability to take a bad play and make it a 27-yard play in a heartbeat. And I'm not trying to make excuses because Brandon Wimbush hasn't really thrown the ball very well the last couple times, but he's got a bunch of weapons. Miles Boykin continues to be very good. Chase Claypool, these are two guys that Chip Long talked about extensively that last year he couldn't have gotten through a practice, or he had difficulty getting through a practice with Chase Claypool and Brandon Wimbush because Wimbush would feel sorry for himself when he made mistakes. So those are all positives. On the defensive side of the ball, I continue to be very impressed with Nick Coleman. Nick Coleman won the job here recently. And in the last two practices that have been open to us, he's been so vocal. I never heard his voice before in a practice field. In the last 2 days, his voice was the loudest.
Well, they're going to have two reliable, solid guys back there. I don't know how many plays they're going to make. Now, Gilman had the best coverage play I have seen him make to date, which is interesting because I said, hey, I got to see this guy make a play. Well, one day later, he made a great play at the goal line. But they're going to be at least solid back there at safety with Coleman and Gilman. And I talked to Terry Joseph, the safeties coach, today. His backups are former starters. That's a world away from what it used to be. And one of his best players is a guy working his way back in. Future players is Houston Griffith, who he even mentioned today, and he kind of noted Coleman gives him that rare flexibility where you might be able to play a safety in the dime because he can also play against the run. So they really developed some depth back there after what was it's 1 year away from some of the worst safety play we have seen at Notre Dame to, they haven't done anything yet, but it looks a lot better on paper now.
Yeah, no doubt. And Jalen Elliott, I thought, showed up today too, now that he's in a backup role. On the defensive line, there was one sequence where Khalid Kareem would have had a sack. There are no officials out there today to blow it dead, but I thought he played really well. And that combination of Jerry Tillery and Myron Tagovailoa-Amosa is really, really good. Dalen Hayes, it was a little banged up, I guess. He's got patellar tendon that they're being very careful with. That got some reps for Justin Adamalola, which I think we were a little surprised by that. But just overall, the linebacker play continued to, Coney and Tranquil, that duo is just outstanding. And I thought Asmar Bilal showed himself a little bit today too. He was physical. He got beat on a route where he had to chase Miles Boykin, which is a complete mismatch. But I thought for the first time he really showed himself.
Yeah, there were two times where we said who delivered that hit, and it was Asmar Bilal. So look, that's great news on 1st and 10 and on obvious running downs, and there's plenty of those in college football now. Yeah, he was actually with Boykin, so he's not going to make that play. If they ask him to make that play, that's a design flaw. That's not Asmar Bilal's fault. So it was kind of probably one of the few times we left practice thinking, well, there's a third linebacker out there that's doing something now. Shane Simon is the rover that intercepted Brandon Wimbush, but he didn't move on the play. So
it was thrown right at him, no doubt.
He has an interception to his credit, but he went like that to catch it. But no, I thought it was the defense as a whole. I got to talk to most of the defensive coaches today. If we could do this after every practice, talk to Mike Elston, Todd Light, and Terry Joseph as I did today, we'd have a lot more clarity for you at home. But on Adamalola, on Justin and Jason, he said, look, they came in, they absorbed the playbook quickly, and they put themselves in position. He kind of referenced Jason as a guy that could push for that fifth spot if they need a fifth spot. He did say that Micah Treadway now is a senior, dropped weight, and he is a guy that, as a number 5, as you know, Elston, he is totally honest with you. He's a guy that they can put in now, and they couldn't have done that last year. So they are by far, he said, it's the deepest group he has ever had here, including 2012, and he said he expects more quarterback sacks and pressures than 2012.
Just a little special teams to wrap things up. Tyler Newsome blasted a few today. He had a 65 or 70 yard punt, which drew a hug from Brian Kelly because of the hang time. And we saw a little bit of the return game. They had 8 different guys back there. It looks like Sean Crawford and maybe Avery Davis are the top 2.
Yeah, I asked Brian Polian about it quickly. He said, we're not at that point now where we can make decisions. He said Sean Crawford, Avery Davis, and Nick Coleman. It's a gong show. He always uses that phrase to start because he just throws everybody out there. They're probably only on practice number 4 of kickoff and punt return, so that's all they're going to have to figure that out in the next week, obviously going into the week before Michigan.
That's it from the Goog and Media Day. We'll have a podcast on Thursday. This has been Irish Illustrated.